broadcast either on the podcast, around the mic, or on my social media page, Change the Brain, Conversations Without Limitations. You know, it's not just about me, so you'll hear information from different speakers, trainers, coaches, and authors, all for you. So get your pad, your note paper, if possible, so that you can take copious notes on how you can also become better, the best version of you. Hey folks, once again, it's Sir Charles Carey, Peak Performance Strategist, and I just love doing what I do because, I don't know, it's just food for thought. It makes me feel good about it. Nothing like adding value when there's none, or adding value because you have some, right? So with that being said, I am excited about my interview today. My good friend, he's got a storied background of sorts. He's done so many different things, and I'm just excited to have him on here because I want you to get a chance to see why I think he's such a great person and a great family man, none other than Rome superstar Madison. Hey, Rome, what's going on, man?
Hi, hello world. Sir Charles, it's an honor and a privilege to join you on your show. You know, we're great friends, and for those of you who are out there, I'm just going up front with you. I have a great amount of admiration for Sir Charles because of his background and some of the things that I do on an everyday basis, man. So I have a great amount of admiration, and it is an honor and a privilege to come on your show and pour out to your audience here today. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it. You know, this is a long time coming. We, we've done so many things. We've traveled around the country, speaking and presenting and, learning and being educated and educating others. So it's great that we, unfortunately, circumstances aren't so great, but it's great that we have an opportunity to expand and expose people to what we do online as well. So listen, man, I know you're running the Superstar Academy. I know you guys are, innovating new techniques and new, maybe even new philosophies. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then please share a little bit about the Superstar Academy.
Well, I always start by saying I'm from small town Texas. I'm a country boy. I grew up, my grandfather raised pigs, and I was raised by a single mother who raised three of us. She was my, best friend and hero growing up. She raised kids as a single mom, but even though she went through that experience, she was the first college graduate in the family. She graduated from University of Texas with a business degree and a minor in mathematics. But my mom suffered from mental illness most of her adult life. And for me, growing up in poverty and with a mother who struggled to take care of us, even though she had those accomplishments of being a college graduate, she was never able to take advantage of her education in the fullest way possible because of her challenges. So that kind of laid the foundation for me, being a giver and a server. I've always wanted to support my mother, always wanted to help others have a greater vision of themselves and what was possible. So I started on that path with working early on in life, when I was 13 years old, working on my grandfather's pig farm, doing anything I could just to go hustle and make some change. I remember when I was in 7th grade and asking my mother for some Jordache jeans. I don't know, I might be telling my age a little bit, but I don't know if y'all remember Jordache jeans. I said, Mama, I want some Jordache jeans. She said, get you a Jordache job.
Wow.
So it was in my DNA to be able to think of ways that I could create wealth, right? So after playing football, I went to the University of Missouri, played ball, started all 4 years there, 4-year letterman, but I didn't make the career in the NFL that I had intended to. So I went to camp. Because of injuries, I fell out of the NFL. And then that was kind of the first real dilemma that I've had in my life consciously, Sir Charles, is, once you go through life, you're put on a pedestal. Because I was an athlete, I was a pretty good student. I went to college, great athlete, very well known. I just didn't have many challenges. But
let me stop you there for a second. I want you to continue, but let me ask you this. Now, of course, the biggest lessons probably came in hindsight What do you think you learned from that experience?
From which experience?
When you knew that the NFL wasn't going to work beyond a certain point?
Hmm. You know, um, there's something that I call the Elvis Syndrome, right? Elvis Presley at one point in time was the most recognized face in the world. And we're talking about the 1950s where there was no internet, there was no social media, but you can go to third world countries and they knew who Elvis was. He was the most popular person around the world, one of the most beloved entertainers around the world. But yet Elvis Presley struggled with his own self-worth and self-esteem. So the Elvis syndrome is having high confidence but low self-esteem. And it was at that point, Sir Charles, that I realized that's what I was dealing with. Because when you're an athlete, I had confidence in my physical abilities, right? You can put me on a football field and I was going to make a way. If I got myself into trouble, I felt good about my physical capabilities to handle myself anywhere I go. So I had a lot of self-confidence in myself. But because of my background, not having a father, and a lot of things that many people out there, certainly not unique to myself, I didn't have a sense of who I was.
Okay.
Or what I was capable of. So at that point where football was over, I was suffering from the Elvis syndrome because as popular as Elvis was, Elvis suffered from depression.
Wow.
Right? Because he didn't have a sense, really, of who he was. After all the fame is gone, after all the attention, after all the fanfare and the lights are gone, are you okay with you just sitting in a room by yourself?
So true. Yeah, man. I think a lot of our celebrities probably of all time, celebrities meaning entertainers, music, acting, as well as athletics, probably experience that. And because it's like not cool to say that, you know, something's wrong, or I don't know how I feel, or I feel different, or I feel odd. That's not cool to say that because you're a celebrity. A lot of people probably experience that more than we realize.
Well, it certainly is not limited to celebrities because doctors, attorneys, people who are very high net worth individuals who society places a premium on their value and worth as individuals, right? They struggle many times with things in their life because outside of people who know them, who call them doctor, not by their name, they have a title, right?
Right.
Outside of those people, like, who am I, right? So it's that thing to where when you're popular without the affirmation and love from other people, are you okay with knowing who you are at a base fundamental level?
Yeah. Now, see, the thing about that's definitely spot on. And what I'm doing, I'm going to take this back home. For us as African Americans, I think we have a huge self-esteem issue. But meanwhile, when you don't know who you are, that makes it even worse because if you realize the creations, the patents, the innovation, the artistry that we're responsible for, what our contribution has been not only to this country, but to the world, you would realize that, well, if my people are known for doing all these things, there must be something in me, but no one's encouraging our people to search from within, which is one of the things I talk about in the books and blah, blah, blah. But to search from within, to identify that thing that makes you tick, that makes you special, that makes you glow, that makes you gold, that is so important, goodness.
Well, and at that point in my life, Sir Charles, that's kind of when I first understood that there was something to be dealt with, right? So now
Okay.
I don't have the helmet now. I can't go and tell ladies, well, yeah, I play football, and that kind of takes care of the rest of the conversation, right? So, now I'm at a point where I'm not on a pedestal anymore. I've got to go find what I want to do with the rest of my life. And there's a lot of athletes who experience the same things after the lights after their career is over.
Right.
So what I did is I matriculated to sales because I believe that I wanted to be in a career choice that I could use my gifts, my talents, my abilities, and allow that to earn the type of income that I was after, and not allow someone to put a price tag on me. Like, you're only worth $50,000. That's all we're going to pay, no matter how many hours you put in. So for me, the field of selling was ideal.
Okay.
And once I got into the field, the first 10 years of my sales career, Sir Charles, I made President's Club or All-Star for every company I'd ever worked for. But you know, at the end of those 10 years, I was working in the healthcare industry. I was one of the top sales reps. I got laid off.
Wow.
And it didn't matter how much I was producing. It didn't matter how much money that I was making. It didn't matter how valuable I thought that I was.
Right.
I was in a position where someone else was in control of my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at that time where I was laid off, and I was laid off for nearly a year and went into really deep financial constraints, that my mother, who raised 3 children, one of my best friends growing up, my mother, who raised 3 children, suffered her third and most debilitating mental breakdown. She had stopped going to work, and I didn't know about this. My family didn't know about this. She had stopped going to work. She eventually lost her job. But more important than losing her job, Sir Charles, she lost her health care benefits, and she couldn't get the medications that she so desperately needed to maintain her state of mind and her health. So her health started to decline, and I think that's the first thing that we noticed is, like, man, she's sounding off. Like, what's going on with my mom? And I live 500 miles away from my mom. And eventually I got a phone call that said, hey, you know, I need, you know, X amount of dollars. And I'm like, what do you need that much money for? Now, I didn't have a job, right? I was living off of, you know, whatever savings that I had. And I'd always been in a position to help my mother.
Okay.
And she said, I need X amount of dollars. And I was like, yeah, I can't give you that. And we had a knockdown, drag out, argue, you know, throwing, you know, words back and forth. And after that, I was just completely distraught, not understanding what went on. But I eventually learned weeks later when my brother, my younger brother, who was at school going to Baylor University playing football.
Okay.
He called and said, hey, man, the police are here at Mama's house. And they're taking the stuff off the wall, the stuff out of the cabinets, and throwing them in trash bags and boxes and putting them out on the curb.
Oh, wow.
It was only then that I knew all the things that I just revealed to you guys, that she had not been going to work, that she'd lost her job. And at this point in time, the bank was foreclosing and repossessing her home that I helped her buy. And for the next few weeks, she bounced from house to house, and really my family was trying to just surround her to see if she was okay, what happened, and we couldn't get a straight story about why and what was going on. And during this year that I was unemployed, didn't have a job, no job opportunities, my mother lost her job, her home, and became homeless.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about the state of just not owning a home. Literally, my mother was burning, going house to house from family members, getting into it with them, when all we were trying to do is trying to love her and find out what was happening. And, you know, Sir Charles, for the next, you know, few months, I would chase my mother from, you know, Salvation Army, you know, shelter to, you know, a state hospital where she would call if I would find out that's where she would be.
Right.
But I can't tell you the pain of how that feels of going to bed at night and not knowing where your mother is.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. And it was during that time, much of what you were talking about is, how do you tap into who you are?
Right.
What is the event? What is the impetus that makes you dig deep into your life, into who you are, into your mindset, into your heart, into your gut, and dig out some strength and resolve in order to be resilient and pull yourself through to a larger vision of yourself and what's possible for you? Right. And it was during this year when I was out of work, had no job options, and my mother was literally on the street, where I had to come to grips with myself and God as to who I was and what is it that he wanted to accomplish with my life. And there's certainly a process, and I write about it in my book, Claim Your Star Power.
Okay.
But there's certainly a process to doing that. But at that particular time, I look back, and that was really the most powerful time in my life, self-discovery, and then being able to plant seeds in myself that manifested fruit that I still eat from and share with others in my life.
And if you're just joining us, folks, we're speaking with Madison, the founder of the Superstar Academy, author, speaker extraordinaire. So please share this out. Any questions you have, by all means, please write them, ask them. We'd love to respond back to you in real time, anytime, all the time. Just make it the right time by suggesting your question or your comment. Man, I tell you, that is some story, man. I don't know how I would be able to handle something like that. I mean, you already know my story, but I can't imagine, basically, having to be the one that, basically cares for the whole family, even though you're not there with the family as you're starting to live life on life's terms. So is your mother still with us now?
She is still with us. And
oh, okay, great. Thank God.
The story gets better, right? Obviously, the story does get better. And I can't tell you that it got better because it didn't. It took years. And it took years of me focusing on building myself as an individual alongside of this tragedy that was kind of happening. And, we find ourselves in situations in life to where we look at the circumstances, we look at the obstacles, and they're just too big for us to handle.
Yeah.
And so, Charles, you've had, I've had the honor of having you on the Superstar Academy, broadcast where you poured into my audience, and something that you said that really echoes with me that I discovered at this particular time in my life that gave me strength is that when you're trying to turn around something, when you're trying to create a new direction in life, and despite the obstacles that you face, despite how you feel, despite the fact that you might not feel that you are worthy of having that type of success, the one thing that you said, Sir Charles, that was so powerful on the Superstar Academy broadcast is it's not about you. You see, one day I woke up on the floor of at that time when my mother was homeless, and I had to pick myself up off the floor. And I don't know how many people are out there right now who can understand what I'm talking about. When you're down and you're out and you try to get up, and it's not like you don't have the strength to get up, you just don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to get up and face what you have to face.
Yeah.
But there I was in that position. And once I finally got myself off the floor and talked to God about what was happening in my life, something was revealed to me that I've got more in me.
Yeah.
I've got reserves of talent, inspiration, power, innovation, creativity in me that I've never tapped into. Watch this, because I never had to tap into it.
For more information on these topics or presenters, go to our Facebook page. For more information on these topics or presenters, go to our Facebook page.
You're watching Change the Brain, Conversations Without Limitations.
In me that I've never tapped into. Watch this, because I never had to tap into it.
Look,
I was playing football.
I don't remember who it was, but someone said that, oh man, it was either like Michael Jai White or somebody that said that when you're tired and you're done, what most people don't realize is that they've got 40% more to tap into, but they don't know it for the reason you just shared with us, because you never had to,
Exactly. Well, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and,
sir.
Most of my life, I was playing football, right?
Okay.
That was a talent. I had certain talents and abilities that I was applying for over here. And then when I got out of football, I was in that position where, okay, now I have to reinvent, but there's some certain things that made me good at football that also made me good at selling, right? So I used those soft skills that I'd learned and honed playing football and crossed over into the business world. Well, here I am at the crossroads in life where I have to tap into something a little deeper, something that I did not know that was there. And when I do that, I call that tapping your star power.
So is that what the Superstar Sales Academy is about, that aspect of your life as well?
It is, so star power is your inner ability to create more of what you want by simply using more of what you already have.
Okay.
The Superstar Academy was created years ago when I first wrote my book and built my speaking brand through a mutual friend, my mentor and one of my great friends, El Toro McNeil, who really helped me hone in on this brand, this speaking brand that I have today. And we titled my company the Superstar Academy. And what it do is I go around the country and share this story of struggle, share this story of setbacks and overcoming as a way to help them look into their selves, because we all have a story, right? It doesn't matter where you were born in life, what your light is in life. We all have a story. We're dealing with something.
Right.
And many times our greatest pains in life is where our greatest sense of purpose comes from in life. So I share my story as a means to help everybody understand that no matter what your challenges may be, there's something greater in you. And my goal is to help them see that and tap to that and to expand their vision of how they see themselves and what's possible for them in their life and in their business.
As a speaker, as an author, and as a presenter, where do you focus your talents? Is it in the corporate arena? Is it person to person, or B2C, B2B? How do you focus your energy with the Academy?
Yeah. Mostly it is corporations and executive coaching. My keynotes, Claim Your Star Power, really they focus on innovation. That's a motivational keynote, but my expertise, and since that time, and we'll jump into that in a second, but really my speaking focuses on innovation, how to reinvent, how to create another wave of momentum if you are in a corporation that you need to really lift. And many of the organizations that have hired me are sales organizations who have higher goals to achieve, or there's been a change in leadership and they're trying to create a different culture and get people aligned, get buy-in from the larger organization. They hire me to come in and share this message of reinvention and having to begin again and think differently about how you solve the problem that you do in order to reach higher goals or achieve a larger platform in what you do.
Now, for a lot of us, I know in the speaking arena, because of COVID-19, things have been a little more challenging. I don't know, have they been that way for you? And if so, how are you planning on attacking it, or maybe reframing what it is that you do?
Well, we were just talking about that before we come on, kind of those green room conversations that we were talking about. So actually, the keynote speaking business, the conferences have all shut down. I know I've lost 5 keynotes in 2020 and 1 in 2021 that has already rescheduled theirs. Some of those events have gone virtual, but most are just canceled and they really don't have a contingency plan. But to be honest with you, my business has picked up because in what I do in the area of innovation, there are companies specifically in healthcare, which is my niche. They're looking for ways to close the communication gap. And when you're talking about closing the communication gap, there are pharmaceutical companies, there are medical sales organizations who now can't go in and engage their clients because not only can family members not go into clinics and hospitals in some cases, certainly not industry salespeople. The last people that need to be in there, right?
Yeah.
So now these companies have a dilemma as to how they're going to get their message to the field, while at the same time not laying off half of their sales force.
Right.
So there's two very distinct problems that need to be solved that I work with them in a number of different ways in the area of sales training and developing IT tools in order to get their message into the appropriate decision makers inside of their accounts.
As we talk about COVID-19, I'm looking at all of the information that's online, on social media, in the news, and some of it's probably chatter, but I'm wondering really, how real is it, meaning not COVID-19 itself, but looking at COVID-19, we're looking at 5G, we're looking at opening up the country, not opening up the country. Now, I know we need money to thrive and to keep the country going, but at the same time, you're putting health in front of business, and you want to put business in front of people's welfare. We're really living in some tumultuous times, and I can't fathom how long is this thing gonna last. And you're in Texas, and they're saying that things in Texas and in Florida, have kind of like rebounded back, and I'm like, man. Are you seeing people there? Are they taking it serious, or are people very casual as we're trying to maintain in the midst of, this pandemic?
I'm gonna go old school on you, Sir Charles. So my grandmother used to say all the time, some people just don't believe fat meat greasy, so they got to try it for themselves.
I heard that.
Early on, I'm in healthcare, so early on, I told people who were asking me, you probably don't want to talk, probably don't want to ask me.
Right.
There's some key things about this that made it dangerous. Number one, we forget that this is novel. There is no track record or history of this particular virus. So we don't know the incubation period. We don't know.
No case studies. Gotcha.
Right? There's so many things that were unknown. So what they were saying initially, a month later, was obsolete.
Right.
What they said a month after the shutdown today, as we're talking, there's so many things that we have learned that debunk things that we thought we knew. And there's so many things as we move forward that we'll learn that will change the best practices of how we're dealing with it now. So I'll say this, take it serious, because it's not that the virus is deadly, it's the demand on the healthcare system that becomes deadly. So here in Texas, it's a warm weather state. We believed that warm weather would be similar to most viruses, that they don't survive when the temperatures get warmer. But again, something that we didn't know, and now people are out, co-mingling in large, populations, and they're testing positive without symptoms. They're testing positive with mild, because we now have, more testing. So we know that people are testing positive. We know that it's out there, but the unknown is, I don't know how my body is going to handle it. Recent article I read in the New York Times is that there's not going to be a second wave because the first wave never stopped.
Okay, I got you.
It's one of those things there. It comes down to self-governance, which we all have in America, thankfully, right? Not to get political, but you have to make a decision on what you want to do. And as for me in my house,
right,
we're building the backyard.
I know that's
right. Like we're gonna be chilling at home a lot.
Yeah.
But it has stopped me from going to the store, going to visit people, and being safe and responsible. It hasn't stopped me from enjoying a good quality of life. I'll say that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things as you speak about, or as we discuss, being comfortable with yourself, knowing who you are. Now, I know everyone is cut differently. Many of us can't keep still or have this drastic need to be in front of people. And I love people as a speaker. How can you not love people? But I can appreciate my downtime. I can appreciate the shift, not for the reason, but because I get a chance to recalibrate, reframe everything that I'm doing if it needs to be reframed. But it's also just a time to just take it in and chill and, reassociate myself with myself on a much deeper level. And not that I need any tremendous amount of time to do that, but it's, the quality of time that we give to ourselves is just as important as the quality that we give to others when we're on a platform delivering a talk or whatever the case may be. Which brings me to my next question for you. Since you speak on innovation, since you are in the healthcare arena and you have been for some time, how do you or do you consider your B2C conversation from a perspective of how you sell people on themselves in an innovative way in the midst of a pandemic? You know what I mean?
So in my latest book called The Sales Elite,
Okay.
I wrote this book for sales organizations. But honestly, when you and I are hired by professional associations, and many of the professional associations that you and I talk to, they're not salespeople. They're decidedly not salespeople, right?
Right.
But as I go, and some of these are healthcare administrators, some of these are cancer nursing associations, some of these are radiology associations, I always ask them, how many people are in sales? And of course, like, sales sometimes is a dirty word, right?
Yeah.
So no one raises their hand. And I inform them that every single person is in sales.
That's right.
I don't care what you do. I don't care what company or what industry. I don't care what your expertise is. Everybody, all y'all out there are in sales. And here's why. People buy you before they buy anything else you have. Even if you're talking about leadership or networking. You see, if I'm in a networking situation, I might not be outright selling my product or service, but I am selling you on the value of having a relationship with me.
Right.
How many times have we been out, Sir Charles, and you're in DC, we travel the country, we're in a lot of big circles. How many times are we in a situation where we collect all these cards, and when we get back to our office, we got a decision to make. If I pull up this card, if I don't even remember this person, where's it going?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to corporations on the value of selling, when I'm talking to executives, and I have materials like this, who are decidedly not in a role where they have to go out and be transactional about selling a product or a service, what they understand is you are your product. You are your brand. And I don't care what you do for a living. I can take you and put you in aviation, but if you wanted to change careers and go to manufacturing or oil and gas, it's your brand. It's your brand footprint, your reputation that precedes you and that makes you successful. You're not successful because you're selling cars. You're successful because of who you are. And if you understand that as an individual, there are specific tools and techniques. There are specific habits and skills that the best salespeople in the world do consistently that you can correlate to the most successful business people, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful designers, anything out there. They all share some of the same characteristics that make them successful. It's not just about being in sales. It's about knowing who you are and building your footprint and reputation that precedes you to make people want to have a relationship with you.
Right. Do you have your books with you presently?
I do. So the first book that we talked about that is a memoir that I discuss my journey, I discuss what happened with my mom, and discuss the road that I traveled to be in the precision medicine industry is called Claim Your Star Power. And again, Claim Your Star Power is my journey and what I did to go from laying on the floor of my house not knowing where my mom is to being an expert in my field, working with big pharma and medical sales organizations to build IT tools to more consistently integrate genomic data into the healthcare record. That's a long stretch from being on the floor not knowing where my mama is, trust me. And I wrote about it in the book. But the second book, and this is, third book actually, that's on my website. Both of these are on the website, or you can find them on Amazon. It's called The Sales Elite, the 54 Reasons Superstar Sales Professionals Have No Competition. And much like the books that I like, this is a workbook. So when we're going over some of these skills and habits, the purpose of the book is to help you put these concepts into action in real time. how can you apply this right now? Because it's not like salespeople don't do the same things to be successful. It's that the most successful, the superstar, the elite salespeople do it all the time, where others do it every now and then.
Right, right. So what's the third book?
The third book was actually my first book, which is a quote book. It's called 101 Star Points. And that was, funny story. So when I was working with Del Toro has a way to kind of pull things out of you really quickly, right? So my first book, this was it, right? Because this is my keynote. But I don't know about you guys. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't have a discipline to write a book. So when I started my brand in putting content out online, I started sharing out quotes, right? Okay. So I would share out a quote by Sugar Hill Gang. I don't mean to brag, I don't mean to boast, but I'm like hot butter on breakfast toast. And below that would be my summary of that is, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. Claim your star power, right? So I had a lot of these over the course of a year, and he's like, well, why don't you do a quote book? I'm like, well, man, that's gonna take a long time. He's like, look at everything you've already done. I'm like, oh, right? So sometimes a mentor is powerful because as someone both you and I admire, Les Brown says, it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah.
You need people around you who can see your greatness and who can speak to it in a timely manner to pull that out for you to make it real.
See how that works, man? When I did my first book, I was just getting my life together, clean from drugs, and light bulb went off in my mind. Bing! I said, oh, wow. I should tell other people what I did and how I did it. I wrote about 40 pages, and I got writer's block because I had never written a book. I just knew I wanted to, didn't do anything. And then met Dr. Jolly, and he said, most credible speakers have a book. A published speaker is a lot more credible. So I went and wrote the book based on poetry. It was a book of inspirational poetry and current events and all this. And that was my first book. Now I don't even talk about it because of the others, but it's amazing, like you're saying, how people that mentor you, coach you, can pull things out of you that you don't even know that are in you or don't know how to develop what's in you. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It is something that I tell people all the time that I coach, and I'm sure you know this too. They're in the same position. How do I write a book? I don't know that I have a book. Who would buy my book? And what they find in the process of writing a book is that they have several books in them. And that's what happened for me, and I know that's what happened for you. So for those who are out there who are in a position or in a season of life where you're trying to kind of find direction, maybe this is a time for you. I don't know, but maybe this is a time for you to develop that kind of thing and the habits in order to get you a manuscript together.
Let me just ask you this. How can people contact you if they want to know about your books, about coaching, about anything that you're currently doing?
The fastest way to do that is go to my website, romemadison.com. At romemadison.com, you'll be able to see my products. In fact, the Sales Elite book, I just published this in the last couple of months. And since we've been on quarantine, I'm giving the book away at no cost. Okay? So catch that. You go to romemadison.com and you'll see a pop-up to say, get me a free copy. Now, the only thing I ask is that you pay for shipping because a brother got to pay the government to get it to you. But I think it's important at this time when we're all, separated and in our own individual rooms to come into the biggest room of them all together, which is room for self-improvement. So I'm giving these resources away while we're quarantined because here's the thing, when it comes to business, when it comes to sales, when it comes to whatever it is that you're doing, life goes on.
Yeah.
At the end of 2020, no matter how tumultuous it has been, there's somebody that you compete against that is going to be on top. My question is that going to be you? If it is, or if you have a vision for yourself to do it, that's the reason I made these resources available at no cost. So go to RomeMadison.com and get the Sales Elite, because no matter if you are an individual contributor in a sales organization, or if you're starting to start a business, or if you're just networking and want to build your brand, the Sales Elite has so many nuggets on the skills and habits that the elite performers in any industry have that can benefit you.
Nice. Nice. Wow. Listen, man, I definitely appreciate your time, and your transparency is just amazing, man. I mean, you know, it's one thing to talk about ourselves, but when we bring our family into the fold and we're, you know, transparent about some of the life challenges that we have with family, that can be really difficult, and it's not an easy pill to swallow. So I definitely appreciate your transparency with your family, and, you know, of course, all the best to you, man, and continued success with your new publication. And by all means, man, anything we can do for one another, I know we're there for each other. So once again, folks, you know, if you're just joining the replay, please do so. There's a lot you can gain from Rome's story, and we thank you for your time and attention, because we know that's the only thing that you can't get back. And as you know, I always say, you gotta radiate the brain and change the game. We'll see you next time.
Now you know you should know. I know. Everybody knows.